All right, Teagan, I'm taking a look at your report, and I'm evaluating these using video because I find it easier for me. I think you'll appreciate it too because it's kind of like looking over my shoulder as I go over it. So feel free to let me know what you think about it. And let's get right into this. So first thing that's missing, of course, is your page numbering. Remember, up here on the top, you got to double click up in here, and you got to use this page numbering tool and put the page numbering up in here on the right. Okay. And then it should include your last name and then a space and then the number. Okay, so you want to fix that. Also, you want to add, just double click out here to get out of that. And here you want to add the November 2nd, November 2 or 2 November for the date. And then, excuse me. And then here you want to delete this excess spacing here so that it's all double spaced. Okay. This should also remove, you want to remove the bold here. It should not be in bold. It should just look the same as all the rest of the print except for being centered and having all the major words in it capitalized. All right, so the debate over tipping and base wages has become increasingly significant. Okay, your introduction looks pretty good. Okay, now your thesis statement, you should end here with the thesis statement. And the thesis statement, of course, I talk about how to do the thesis statement in the materials from one of the previous weeks. I can't remember if it was week 9 or week 10. But look back at how to do the thesis statement or look at the sample. It shows you how the thesis statement should look. But you need to have a thesis statement here that basically is suggests or asserts that your report is basically you're going to talk about what you're going to start by saying something like this report seeks to examine the issue of whatever, right? So you want to start by referring to the report, which will help keep you from using your own name. Remember, you don't want to, first person pronouns. You don't want to use first person pronouns in a formal report. So you would just say something like this report seeks to do whatever. Okay, so you want to fix that. All right, let's take a look now. Okay, so you don't have any subheadings. So subheadings are important. They help me and your audience to see where your different parts are. So here, between these two, you should go down here and you should put something like literature review here, and then make sure you put it in bold. Okay, that's all you got to do. Just make sure you have a heading like that for each section. All right, now let's see. Excuse me. Okay, so remember, since you're mentioning a policy brief here, you're referring to something that would be a source that presumably is on your works cited page. That should be, so wherever this ends here, which I'm assuming is here, you need to have a parenthetical in there stating the author's name, if there is an author. Or if there is no author, then you would just simply put in here the page numbering, which might be like 23, whatever. Now, if it does not have page numbering, then you would put a paragraph number, and you would do that by something like that. It would look just like that. Okay, PAR period for paragraph. Okay, so that's what you want to do for all of your citations. You want to make sure they end with a parenthetical. It's very important to do that. If you're not sure about any of this and you want to, you could review the video that's titled Integrating Sources, and it will show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. Okay, again, make sure that wherever you're providing information from your source that you cited, like I just went over. So it looks like you might be talking about that. You might have some other things here that need to be cited. Even if they're paraphrased, you have to cite them. Okay, you do not need the date here. Date is indicative of using APA, and it appears that you are using MLA because you have a heading up there instead of a title page at the top. So you'll make sure everything is in MLA if that's what you're wanting to write. Again, remember to have a citation at the end. In this case, just change this to a page or paragraph number. That would work there. Okay, this is good. You actually use their names, and you provide something that tells me as your audience why they should be important enough to listen to by referring to them as economists. So that's good. Again, though, you don't want to have the date here. The year here is indicative of APA. Let me see your website page. Yeah, see, your works cited page looks correct. It's done for MLA. So you just want to make sure that you do the same thing in here. You want to eliminate those dates, and instead of putting the date, just delete this and put the parenthetical at the end of the source material and put just a page or paragraph number in there. Now, since if this is where it ends, for example, you would put the parenthetical here. Now, since you already mentioned the author's names, then all you have to put in here is page or paragraph number, right? If it's page number, you just put the number. If it's paragraph number, you put like this, right? So I'll leave this one. I'll leave it. Well, you're not going to be able to see this later, anyways. You're only going to be able to see the changes on the video. Okay, remember that you need to have in the literature review, you need to have a gap in the research somewhere here at the end, usually in the last paragraph. You just should discuss something that you think would be a gap in the research. That is the gap in the known research that comes from sources. In other words, what is something they maybe neglected to consider, or they didn't really emphasize as much as you think they should have, whatever. Anything that you think is a gap in the research, you want to talk a little bit about that here in this paragraph. Now, this results and findings is not what should come next. The next thing should come here, and that, by the way, remember, should be your headings. Subheadings should always be on the left. But what you should have in here that's missing is your methods section. So if you didn't really go by the sample, you probably should make sure you look at that sample to help you make sure you get all the parts in here the way you should have. So check out the sample to see what should come in the methods section. It should be just basically the things that you did in order to conduct your research, and make sure you had that in here above the results and findings. Now let's see what you have in results and findings. Okay, don't forget to have sources in here. Like, to me, it seems like there ought to be a source here where to indicate where the 7 states are, unless you just happen to know that off the top of your head. But so you should cite that. 43 states. See, these kind of numbers and everything indicate that it's probably from a source, and you have to make sure you cite every source. Everything that you say from a source has to have a citation. Okay. Again, check out the sample for how that should look. Figure 1, you mentioned the figure, so that comes next, and it's got a title. It's got the information underneath it here. Then you put that under there, the figure number, average and data compiled from Tufts, so you get the full. Good. So that looks great. Very good job. Now, if this is the title of this paper, then it should be up here first. I'm not sure what this is compared to what this says, because these both look like titles, but they're obviously, naturally there should only be one title. Okay, here you talk about what the figure demonstrates. That's good. Okay, here you talk about how this reflects with the university analysis source. So that's good. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good through here. And here's your conclusion. Conclusion is a little long. Usually only has to be maybe 5 or 6 sentences. Just remember your conclusion is simply reminding your audience what the topic is, why it's important, let your audience know why they should care about it, and then end with an interesting final statement that maybe invites them to take a stance or get involved or whatever, right? Now your works cited page, that looks good, except that you only have 3 sources. Remember, you're supposed to have at least 5. So if at all possible, you need to try to add 2 more sources here and then talk about them in the paper, because it's really supposed to have a minimum of 5 sources. Otherwise, everything looks pretty good. Just fix all the things that I've noted now, and make sure that so a big requirement for fixing this is to make sure that you highlight every little thing that you fix. Highlight it, fix it, and then highlight it in the sentence. And then I go over here and put a note that tells me what you did to fix it. Okay, so I need a highlight and an annotation for each thing that you fix, so that I know, so that it will remind me what I fixed, and I don't have to go back and watch this video again, because I won't have time to do that, right? So make sure you highlight everything you fix, annotate it, and if you remove something, like if you delete a sentence or words or something, you can just highlight like the space here between them or something, and just say you remove such and such from that space. Okay, so make sure you do all that, and then please feel free to resubmit it to me so that I can give you more feedback and we can get your paper looking awesome for the final portfolio. All right, that will do it for this video. If you have questions, let me know.